Okay, so let's look at the next exercise, and that's going to be 3.6 blood alcohol concentration calculator. So we have this quantity called blood alcohol concentration, which seems to measure how much alcohol a person has in the bloodstream, and it's based on this fairly simple formula, which takes a bunch of input arguments as values. We can see that some of these constants differ from males and females. So this one and this one, so let's just pay attention to that. And here's a little example of how we would use it. This is for a male, so we use one set of these constants. And here's some examples of how we can call it. And then there's a little bit of hint with an if-else statement depending on whether it's a male or not. And that's basically it. So let's try to work on that. So our usual strategy here is that we first try to solve one of the cases. So let's try to solve the male case first and see how that works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, let me just copy all of this stuff. So I use the copy button, and then let's move back and find the file. Let's drop all of this because my screen space is so limited. And then I'm going to put, that has these annoying things here. So we're just going to remove those. And that column goes to the back. And then let's do print the back. And then let's format it a little bit. And it is supposed to be this number. Good. So then I'm going to comment this out. And the shortcut I used there is actually a very convenient shortcut. So I use Control plus backslash. You can find that shortcut here in Edit. Toggle line comment. So this shortcut is probably called something different on your system because this is Linux and they're usually a little bit different, but this is a very convenient shortcut. You can use that for basically toggling whether something is a comment. That's very convenient if you want to quickly test things and remove things again. Okay, so this is what it's supposed to do, and I just insert a little example where I call my function with some parameters, and then I print out what it is and what it's supposed to be, and then we can see if the two agrees. So here's the function signature, and I use a very big font size so we cannot see all the input arguments all at once, but it has alcohol compute, weight, gender, time, and I guess that's it. Okay. Good. So what I like to do when I implement mathematical symbols is that I actually really like to use the symbols from the equation also in my program. So A, mass of alcohol consumed in kilo. I guess that's A. So let's just pay attention to that. R is the distribution ratio. So I'm just going to define R here. So I'll just say that R is equal to 0.65. And then I'm going to say V. And remember, I'm just doing males because I'll keep females for later. I'll just focus on one case first. V is body mass in kilo. I think we already had that here. That's weight. Then we have gender. That's male. We know that. And then we have time. So what's time? That's T. And beta is another constant, so beta is equal to this stuff, 0.015. So let's call it beta, like this. Okay. Actually, let's just be completely consistent with the notation here. This is just a quirk of mine. I like to I just basically really like that the variables in my Python program is the same as in the equation. So then we need to implement this formula. So that would be A divided by R times V times 100 minus beta times T. Like this. And that's the back. And then we will just return. Like this. And of course I could have saved the return statement. I could just have had return this stuff, but I choose to do it like this. And now we don't need this anymore. Okay, so let's see what happens. So wait a second. 0.238, 0.214. Ah, there's a discrepancy. Isn't that interesting? So basically, what I think is that somebody made a bit of a typo. And I can see I made a typo on this constant here. So this is why it's important to, basically try to test your software. Okay, so then let's test it again with this change. And now it seems like they agree. And knowing what we know, what we could actually try to do is just do an equality comparison, see if that works. I'm not completely sure it works because this decimal number is a little truncated, but let's just see. Okay, it actually works. So it seems like it internally rounds this and it's true, but that was actually not something I knew beforehand. Okay, so now let's move on to the other case. That's the female case. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I copy paste this, or actually I could just use my shortcut code from before. And let's call this back2 or back if. And then we do print back if. And it's supposed to be this stuff. That was an interesting thing that happened there. It just erased the decimal number. Fascinating. I don't know. That was a PyCharm thing. Okay, so let's see what happens in this case. So in this case, they are obviously not the same, because I'm not taking into account what happens when the gender is female. This is all based on the male constants. But what I can do is I can just say, okay, so it's the female. What needs to be changed? What needs to be changed is R and beta, right? Because remember, these are the only one that differs from males and females. So I should say R is equal to 0.55, like this. And beta should be equal to 0.017 here, right? So what happens now is that when it calls this function, it says that these have this quantity, but if the gender is female, and actually I need to, it's not enough to say if female, I need to make a comparison, if female. PyCharm was actually reminding me about that by doing this underline thing. It says, well, I don't really understand what this is supposed to be, because, I mean, you're telling me that this is a string, and I don't know what that means. Oh, it's actually saying it's not defined. I'm completely messing it up. So I should say if gender is equal to female, because this is true if the gender is female. In that case, do this stuff. Yeah, I can feel that I'm getting a little bit tired. But with VS Code was able to help me. And I think I said PyCharm. That's because I'm usually using PyCharm, but VS Code is, of course, what this program is. Okay, so now let's try to run it again. And now we see that the two outputs agree. So this is now doing the correct thing because I'm substituting these new constants and then I'm doing the right calculation. So that's how I would do that. So let's just see if the tests actually work. And they do. So that was another one down. I'm sorry that I messed that up ever so slightly. But let's move on to this one in the next video.